Hello and welcome to Unsourced Wall. My name is Elvis, and as always, I'm your host. Alright, so this is going to be kind of a short one because we don't have anything to watch this week. Of course, in 2 weeks, we'll see the premiere of New Mutants, if all goes well, and I might talk about that when the time comes. So let's just move on to the news topics of this week. We only have one big one, which is that it seems Jim Lee tried to rebut and dispute some of the worries and rumors circulating in the wake of the big DC implosion of 2020. Just a quick shout out to those of you who might want a more in-depth breakdown of those worries and rumors. In addition to last week's episode, I also did another collab discussion with the great Rollover Queen on his channel, which I will link below. But more to the point, Lee's comments and attempts to calm these down did more damage than good. Basically just saying that DC wasn't going anywhere anytime soon, and that of course comics would continue because where else would WB get more ideas and IPs, which kinda, is what everybody was worried about. So this did nothing to assuage any fears, and people saw right through it because again, it's just confirming everyone's ideas about what happened and why all these people were laid off. Like that DC is going to be stripped down into a small IP farm and nothing else, which is only really compounded by Lee saying that, hey, we got some great Batman stuff on the horizon too, which no one was worried about because Batman's a huge seller, so of course you would still want to have Batman ideas floating around there to adapt from. He just doesn't really seem to get it. So, again, fingers crossed that everything goes well, that maybe on the far off chance that this really isn't as bad as it seemed and that DC isn't going through an agonizingly slow death. Now I say slow because since then DC has canceled like 10 more ongoings, especially some high profile ones that were definitely not expected by anyone to be on the chopping block. So heading into December of this year, they're only going to be publishing like 11 comics, and that is pretty worrisome. So again, fingers crossed, and best of luck to everyone still there, and hopefully those who got laid off will find work someplace else. So let's move on to what I read this week. I only read one thing this week, which is Maestro #1. The long-awaited prequel that no one really asked for has finally arrived. The backstory, the origin, and the beginnings of Maestro, the iconic Hulk villain and Hulk persona from Peter David's iconic story, Future Imperfect. Kind of. Not really. Barely. It quickly becomes a moot point by how much David seems to have rethought or just decided didn't quite work with what he wanted in the original. More or less being that instead of becoming a warlord by, coming to blows with his fellow superheroes, the apocalypse and Maestro's rise to power was preempted by a nuclear war and some good old biological warfare. Why did this change? Who knows? Why have MODOK be the reason Hulk survived? Why waste time with some boring and dull simulation fake out? I really don't know. I thought it was going to go somewhere interesting, like maybe the Avengers had trapped him in there after a freakout or a Hulk breakdown, or maybe they had just outright betrayed him, setting off a course of action that would have him, of course, come to blows, like in the original backstory. But no, it's just MODOK and AIM, and their inclusion means nothing and adds nothing, except for some real wild exposition. Retcons, more or less. So they're just even more pointless than they seemed at first. It's just not satisfying or fulfilling in any sense. It's not a good throwback, it's not a good revision or even update, and it's barely decent nostalgia bait. Maybe it'll get somewhere more interesting as the mini goes along, but Maestro is one of those figures that's just more enigmatic when they're an enigma than actually seeing fleshed out. Also, the weak bait at the end towards the end Hulk was more worrisome than exciting, because that's a perfect standalone Hulk story, and I really hope that David doesn't ruin it by merging it with Future Imperfect. Overall, 2 thumbs middle, thoroughly mediocre and uninspired. Alright, and since we don't have anything to watch this week, we're going to be heading into listener questions, and we have 2 great ones, and the first of which is from the ever amazing @MitchGosser, and their question is, favorite X-Men/mutant adjacent storyline? And alright, top of the list, I have to go with anything to do with Mojo World, X-Babies included. Mojo World is just this preeminently ridiculous, silly, and so dangerously fun conceit that I just can't get enough of whenever it pops up. I just really love it. I've gone on my way to read minis and one-shots that might have a glimpse of it, because it's always such a joy to me. Second to that would have to be the Sentinel ongoing. The one where that kid finds the broken down Sentinel. It was just so charming and endearing that I wish Marvel had cared more about it than just trashing it in Avengers Arena, like off panel. On the flip side though, even though I've heard some gripes about it, as a kid, this was also the only reason I ever read Morrison's New X-Men and Here Comes Tomorrow, because I heard comparisons to that concept in it, and that was fine. It was probably one of my first Dark Future storyline experiences, and I enjoyed it for what it was. I'm not the most adept in X-Men stuff, but those were kind of the few I feel I enjoyed more than the rest I've delved into. Oh, and Ultimate X-Men's final arc with Mark Millar, Return of the King, mainly because of Ultimate Cyclops' hallucinatory dancing mushrooms and then him blasting Ultimate Wolverine at the end, who was such a prick through that entire ongoing. So that was pretty satisfying. But thank you for that question, Mitch. It was a blast. And, I'm pretty sure this was in reference to the upcoming X of Swords event. And I guess I should probably try to get caught up on Hickman's X-Men run as soon as possible to try and get ready for that. And our second question comes from the awesome AkiCat on Twitter, and their question is, actors I want to see together for a dream Fast and Furious spin-off movie, including characters and actors that have appeared in previous FF movies. Now, this is something I also talked about with Oliver Queen, but it bears repeating here. I would love a full-on crossover with Better Luck Tomorrow, the forgotten cousin of the Fast series. Something that brought back Perry Shen, Roger Fan, and Jason Tobin in those roles from that movie, and then had them really bash it out, like Fast 6 style, because Fast 6 tried to do that whole evil counterparts cliche, but I feel like it would work so much better with that, especially since they seem to be like on the road to ruin, and seeing how they've matured and maybe even grown into that would be really exciting to me. And it would also feel pretty full circle, I think, especially in how much of the saga's reputation and future came from the seeds of Better Luck Tomorrow. Either that, or get the duo from the Bollywood rip-off movies Doom and just go wild, because those movies are pretty insane and pretty hilarious, and for a long time they were probably like better than the main Fast and Furious movies at being Fast and Furious movies. So I would love to see them cross over, as it were, in an event film of some sort, because that would be exciting as hell. So thank you for that question too, AkiCat. And again, I'll link to Royal Over Queen's channels and videos below, so that anyone who's interested in hearing more of his own thoughts on this kind of stuff will get the chance to. Anyway, thank you so much to the both of you for these questions. I had a great time, and it just feels great to get questions again and answer them, because not only is it so exciting and fun for me, but I'm just humbled that anyone would even care to, sending questions, and I'm so grateful for that. And if anyone out there has own questions, comments, topics, you can always find me on Twitter at THE_SNICKMAN. And I want to give a shout out to the co-writers for the show at DOTEMCE. Please check them out. They're amazing, and they deserve all the traction they can get. Anyway, like I said, next week, New Mutants come out, but we won't be able to talk about it until the week after because my recording schedule. So fingers crossed that it turns out well, and see you again next time. Have a great one.